Hello everyone. I hope you are preparing for our upcoming Prelims Examination 2020 well. In the continuity of the coverage of NCERT, now I am dedicating this video towards the study of Indian vegetation. NCERT gives us some slight outdated information because we have got the release of Indian State of Forest Report 2019. So that updation will be picking up. In all, this video is dedicated for a part of the chapter Vegetation of India from our India, the physical environment, and we'll be learning three important things here. Number one, which are the important vegetation type of the country, which is the conventional part. Number two, what exactly is the forest status of the country, and number three, which are the prominent Forest Conservation Act that we have. And because mangroves are part and parcel of wetland, there is an additional reference of wetland that I'll also be considering. So we take NCERT for our revision of Vegetation of India. Chapter number 5, NCERT, Natural Vegetation of India. Now when we talk about natural vegetation, there are few technical things that comes up from ecological studies. We are essentially avoiding it as of now, because in this particular chapter we cannot deviate us towards the study of ecological dimension. Before we get to the details of it, I want to read this line from NCERT. Natural vegetation refers to a plant community that has been left undisturbed over a long period of time so as to allow its individual species to adjust themselves to climate and soil condition as fully as possible. Now, if I take this definition of natural vegetation, the first thing that comes up in our mind is how to take the categories of natural vegetation and how they are correlated with the climate and soil. To understand it, let us take support of this table. Influence of latitude and moisture on the distribution of biomes. I can substitute the term with distribution of vegetation. So first and the foremost thing that we should take note of is that on the horizontal axis we are decreasing precipitation towards our right, and we are continuously decreasing temperature as we are moving up in this triangular diagram. And are we noticing warmer the condition, wetter the condition? So right here we are warm and wet. We have got rain forest. More we remain warm but dry, it becomes desert. And this is where you have to understand savanna, monsoonal forest. So rain forest becomes the example of wettest forest, and desert becomes the driest in warmer location. If I decrease the temperature and talk about moderate temperature zone, in the moderate temperature zone you will have forest again, but these will be called temperate forest, grasslands, and also desert, mid latitude. And then when I get into the colder area, we'll have taiga. Taiga is called boreal forest. And then tundra. Tundra is also referred as tundra vegetation. By default, when we talk about this lower temperature and lesser precipitation, because if I try to pick up the precipitation account, why triangle? Because more I am increasing the sign of latitude. With increase in latitude, precipitation decreases, and that is the reason the best way to apply is this is the triangle. So tundra and taiga don't go with that amount of precipitation which we can see with the lower latitudinal region. So divide the diagram into three parts: warm, moderate, and cold in terms of temperature, and equally three parts if I have to take into reference the warm and moderate temperature zone. Which are they? Wet, moderate, and dry. So wet will go with forest, moderate is going with savanna, grassland, and dry is going with deserts. What is the relation that we have between climate and vegetation? Climate as two factors: number one, temperature, and number two, precipitation. tends to determine the nature of natural vegetation. From the preceding diagram, if I take support of this table, how many categories we are dividing the natural vegetation into? We are dividing it into 3 categories: forest, grassland and desert. And if we take forest, how many types of forest can be outlined? So, forest can be outlined as rainforest, both tropical and temperate. Can you notice them here? A, and temperate evergreen, B. Then I have deciduous forest. Deciduous again will be right here, tropical deciduous and temperate deciduous, so do. And then we have Mediterranean forest and coniferous forest. So, Mediterranean forest, and boreal. So, how many types of forest vegetation we have? Forest vegetation can be demarcated into precisely 3 categories, but because we are picking up Mediterranean also as a part, I am boxing it, so we have counted it as 4. And grassland, how many? 2. Tropical grassland and temperate grassland. Similarly, desert is 2, tropical and tundra. Tropical desert and tundra. Tundra is basically cold desert. Going back to the previous diagram, notice it again. Higher the amount of precipitation, wetter is the vegetation. So, forest, rainforest here, monsoonal hardwood deciduous, temperate deciduous. Colder the conditions, taiga, boreal forest. Moderate precipitation will give us savanna, tropical grassland, temperate grassland, and drier conditions are giving us deserts and tundra. Now, in context of India, India is essentially a monsoonal climatic country. That means if I have to pick up the characteristics of our vegetation, will be dominantly tropical. And that is the reason you can notice that the type of vegetation in India includes tropical as dominant. I have got 5 vegetation type in the country and 3 of them reads tropical. Tropical stands for warm. We are dominantly warmer climatic country. What is the difference between these 3 then? It's about precipitation. So, carefully read the name now. It's tropical rainforest. It's tropical deciduous forest and it's tropical thorn forest. What are we doing with the first 3 names? From tropical rainforest to tropical thorny, we are continuously decreasing the amount of precipitation. That is, in India, the dominant determiner of vegetation is dominant determiner of vegetation type is precipitation, because we are essentially tropical, warm climatic region. But apart from it, we also have got mangrove forest and montane forest. How to take them into difference? I am keeping them in reserve. So, in total, there are 5 different types of vegetation in India. Going to NCERT. India is land of great variety of natural vegetation. Himalayan heights are marked with temperate vegetation. Western Ghats and Andaman Nicobar have tropical rainforest, and the deltaic region have tropical forest and mangroves. The desert and semi-arid areas of Rajasthan are known for cacti, a wide variety of bushes and thorny vegetation. So, how do I take this great variety of vegetation is that number 2, depending upon the variations in the climate and soil, the vegetation of India changes from one region to other. And to understand it, number 3, on the basis of certain common features such as prominent vegetation type and climatic region, Indian forest is divided into tropical, evergreen and semi-evergreen forest. Which type of forest we are talking about from our table? It's a rain forest. Tropical deciduous, tropical thorny, 4 and 5 kept in reserve. We are not talking about them right now. So how many types of tropical forest we have in our country? We have got tropical evergreen, tropical deciduous and tropical thorny. To make sense with it, please have note of this map from NCERT. We are not going any other map. And taking the note of this map, what you need to notice is, you simply need to apply your logic of precipitation pattern or precipitation distribution in the country, right? So I am not talking about montane and littoral. So the areas which is not in our concern, we are demarcating it out safely. Entire Ladakh, Jammu and Kashmir, Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh is out as montane vegetation. We are not concerned with it right now. Similarly, the big patches right here, Sundarbans, Bhitarkanika, deltaic plains of Godavari, Krishna, Gulf of Kutch and Khambat, these are littoral or swampy region. We have kept these 2 forest type in reserve. We are not talking about it. Now I just need to remind myself, minus these area. Precipitation, more than 70% is received during advancing monsoon in the country. Where is the maximum amount of precipitation experienced? Maximum amount of precipitation is experienced in, number 1, the coastal plains in west. Number 2, in the entire northeastern region, minus we have already taken out Himalayas. And also we can take it in the areas that are identified with lower Gangetic plain and the plains right here in Tamil Nadu. Which type of vegetation we have in these areas? These areas stands for tropical, evergreen and semi-evergreen. So higher the amount of precipitation, larger will be the density of the vegetation. Which areas of the country experiences higher amount of precipitation? So carefully understand it like this. West coast, northeastern states and part of east coast have evergreen vegetation and maximum of plateau interiors. Because we have to chart out maximum, what we do is we take out what is exceptional here. So looking for the shade that is there in NCERT right here. Punjab, Rajasthan, it's a minor part of Punjab, neighboring Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, and then this rain shadow interiors and drought prone region of Telangana. Which type of vegetation is applied here? It's thorny. And in rest entire country, so I am quickly shading it with the dots. Which type of vegetation we have? Tropical deciduous. What does that stand for? Monsoonal. Take out the exceptions. Which is the area in the country that will have montane vegetation? Has to be Himalayas. Which is the location that will have littoral or swampy vegetation? It is in the swampy area, Sundarbans, Gulf of Kutch, Khambat, along with Bhitarkanika, Gahir Matha beaches, neighboring Chilka, the lagoon lake. Also, the Pulikat, Godavari, Krishna region. Which type of vegetation will be having there? Littoral. Rest of the country, what type of vegetation is applied? Vegetation in the country includes tropical monsoonal hardwood deciduous, tropical thorny, and this belt here along with these smaller belts in this region as which type of vegetation? Rainforest. And what type of rainforest NCERT applies? NCERT applies rainforest to be semi and evergreen, semi-evergreen and moist evergreen vegetation. Now we want to read the things in details from NCERT. Vegetation type number 1, tropical evergreen and semi-evergreen forest. These forests are found in the western slope of Western Ghats, hills of the northeastern region and Andaman Nicobar Islands. They are found, so I am labeling it as part A for our study. They are found, part B, they are found in the warm and humid areas with annual precipitation of over 200 centimeters and temperature of 22 degrees Celsius. Please recall the triangular diagram. Which areas will have evergreen where temperature and precipitation both is higher? Tropical evergreen forests are well stratified with layers closer to ground and are covered with shrubs and creepers. There is no defined time for trees to shed their leaves, flowering and fruitation. Species found in these forests, you must remember at least the names which are given in our NCERT: rosewood, mahogany, any and ebony. Then statement number next that I read in changing paragraph: semi-evergreen is found in less rainy part of these regions. And the character of these forests have got comparatively less undergrowth, and main species is white cedar, hillock and kale. Forest floor, understory, canopy layer and emergent layer. I hope we are noticing the 4 defined layers that is mentioned in our NCERT in regards to the vegetation in the rainforest. Which are they? The forest floor layer, the understory layer, the canopy layer and the emergent layer. Basically because of higher amount of precipitation and warmer conditions, we have got densest varieties of vegetation in this region. So what are evergreen forest? Evergreen forests are warm and wet locations, largely bushes and shrubs, shorter heighted trees, medium heighted trees, tall trees. One of the very basic things that we study in ecology, that there is competition, and basically because we are in the environment where there is excessive availability of sunlight and precipitation, so dense variety of vegetation gives us vertical canopy, and that is the reason trees here are exceptionally tall. Read it again here. The tropical evergreen forests are well stratified with layers closer to ground and are covered with shrubs and creepers. Vegetation type number 2, it is tropical deciduous forest. Mind it, we can also call it monsoonal forest. And you need to remind yourself that India is essentially a monsoonal climatic region, and that is the reason this will be, I am reading it from NCERT, these are the most widespread forest of India, has to be. These are also called monsoonal forest. They spread in the region which receives rainfall between 70 to 200 centimeters, and on the basis of availability of water, these forests are further subdivided into moist and dry. So moist deciduous will be towards 200 centimeters of rain and dry will be towards more 70 centimeters of range, the range of precipitation that is applied for this forest. Reading it further, statement number A, the moist deciduous forest are more pronounced in the regions where precipitation is 100 to 200 centimeters. These are found in northeastern states, eastern slopes of Western Ghats, Odisha, and now comes very important statement: teak, sal, sesamum, mahua are the important. Kusum, sandalwood, semul, amla, hura are the important varieties of trees in these forests. You know, these tree variety you should remember. This can be a very typical type of multiple choice question. And what is the B that is coming up? It's dry deciduous forest, areas between 70 to 100 centimeters. On the wetter margins, it has a transition between moist, while on drier margin, it has got thorny vegetation. And which part we identify them? It is largely in the areas of peninsula, plains of Uttar Pradesh, Bihar. And what are the basic varieties that you see in this? Tendu, Palas, Bale, Khair, Excelwood. Very important block, you should be aware of it. So can we conclude it like this, that as the amount of precipitation is decreasing, let us take it like this. Higher the amount of precipitation, rainforest will pave way to moist deciduous, moist deciduous will pave way to dry deciduous, and that will pave way to thorny. Basically, it goes like this because we all are in the area of warmer climate. Sounds logical? And how do I take the understanding of this beyond? Amount of precipitation in India has got decrease from south to north, decrease from east to west in extra peninsula. So if I am talking about wettest and densest, I will talk about rainforest. If I am talking about driest and sparsest, I will talk about thorny. And where will be thorny? It will be in Rajasthan, it will be in Gujarat, and it will be in the rain shadow interiors of Sahyadris. And where will be moist and dry? It will be in maximum part of the country. Because which type of vegetation we apply in this region? India is essentially the example of monsoonal hardwood deciduous. Vegetation number 3, tropical thorny. This was our vegetation type number 2. Tropical thorn forest occurs in the area which receives rainfall less than 50 centimeters. Quickly repeat. Rainforest, more than 200 centimeters of rain. Moist deciduous, 100 to 200 centimeters of rain. Dry deciduous, 75 to 100 centimeters of rain. And where is tropical thorny? Less than 50 centimeters of rain. So which are these areas? Semi-arid areas of southwest Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh. Which are the important varieties of species found here? Babool, Bear, Wild, Date Palm, Khair, Neem, Khejri, Palas. Tussocky grass grows up to the height of 2 meters as undergrowth. So some undergrowth is not ruled out. And the undergrowth that is to be applied here is called tussocky grass. But which will be the vegetation of our country where undergrowth will be maximum? Rainforest. Wettest and densest. I am going to map one more time. Tropical thorny. Rainforest. Thorny. Monsoonal deciduous. Notice this entire belt. Which vegetation type is most common in India? Deciduous. And what is the range with which we are aligning them? We are simply aligning them as rainforests are densest, monsoonal hardwood deciduous is comparatively sparser, and thorny is sparsest. I surely want to add one more thing here. In thorny, do take xerophyte of Marusthali and helophytes of run as specialized vegetation. Not mentioned in NCERT, but they become an important category, so you should be aware of it. Xerophyte, the plants which are adapted to the drier conditions, and helophytes, the plants that are adapted to what is referred as salt varieties. It can easily take into reference the salt cover. Vegetation number 4, littoral and swampy. Mind it, littoral and swampy can also be correlated with helophyte, because littoral and swamps are basically confined with salt water habitat. India has rich variety of wetland habitat. About 70% of this comprises area under paddy cultivation. This information thereafter is outdated. We'll be talking about it later, because as of today we identify the wetland or Ramsar Convention sites in our country, because I hope you are aware of the fact that we have increased 10 new names. So we have got 27 plus 10, so 37, and here we have got only 2 mentioned. So we have got 27 conventional plus 10 new added very recently as a Ramsar site. It doesn't give us much about swampy forest, so I want you to learn it like this. In the coastal areas, we categorize 2 types of littorals: offshore littorals and onshore littorals. Offshore littorals are best represented by mangroves, and onshore littorals are best represented by coconut palm. India is good location of presence of both of them. And in both the categories, we identify the range of littoral or swampy vegetation. Now picking it up from NCERT, zooming it here. The country's wetland have been grouped into 8 categories. Category number 1, the reservoirs in the Deccan Plateau in south, together with lagoon and other wetlands, coastal area. Number 2, the vast saline expanse of Rajasthan, Gujarat, Gulf of Kutch. Number 3, freshwater lakes from Gujarat eastward through Rajasthan, Keola Dev National Park and Madhya Pradesh. Number 4, the delta wetland and lagoons in east coast, Chilka as an example. Number 5, the freshwater marshes of Gangetic Plain. Number 6, the floodplains of Brahmaputra and marshes swamps in hills of northeast. Remind yourself, we talked about whom these in one of the earlier videos. We are aware of Loktak Lake. Number 7, the lakes and reservoirs in the montane region of Kashmir and Ladakh. Example, Wooler Lake, the largest freshwater lake of our country. Number 8, the Mangrove Forest and other wetland in the island arc of Andaman Nicobar Islands. And you must remember these 8 categories. Which are the 8 categories of wetlands in the country? It's all about west coast and plateau interior, saline expanse of Rajasthan, the freshwater in Gujarat, Rajasthan towards east, and then it is delta of east coast, then it is freshwater marshes in the Gangetic Plain, and also we have got your NCERT chapter in Gangetic Plain talks about chors and cover tals. We can easily take them as examples when it comes to our category number 5 right here. And 6, the floodplain in Brahmaputra, marshes in northeast. We have talked about Loktak and Fumdi here. And then we have the mangroves in the coastal plains. It also reads mangroves grow along the coast in the salt marshes, tidal creek, mud flat and estuaries also. 5th and the final type of vegetation, that is montane vegetation. In the mountainous area, the decrease in temperature with increasing altitude leads to corresponding change in natural vegetation. And this is classified into northern mountain forest and southern mountain forest. So we have got A and B categories here. A. In the Himalayan range, succession of vegetation from tropical to tundra is applied. Deciduous forests are found at the foothills of Himalayas, which is succeeded by wet temperate type between the altitude of 1000 to 2000 meters. In the higher hill ranges of northeastern India and West Bengal, Uttarakhand, evergreen broad-leaved oak and chestnut are prominent. Between the height of 1500 to 1750, alpine pine trees are also well developed in this zone, with chir pine as very useful commercial tree. Deodar is highly valued endemic species that grows mainly in the western part of Himalayan range. Similarly, chinar and walnut, which sustain a famous Kashmiri handicraft, is also belonging to this zone. The spruce appears at the height of 225 and 3048 meters. In many of the places, highlighting it separately, temperate grasslands are also found. However, these pastures are used extensively for transhumance by tribes like Gujjar, Bakerwals, Bhutias and Gaddis. At the higher altitude, moss lichens forms the part of vegetation. Understand it like this. This is my Himalayas. Foot, we are taking the altitude up to, we are taking the complete demarcation, picking up the support that comes from Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. All heights written are in meters. This is monsoonal deciduous. This is temperate deciduous. This is taiga. This is tundra. And this is no vegetation. With height, the vegetation goes on changing. Reason, with increase in height, both temperature and precipitation decreases. So, Himalayas incorporate how many types of vegetation with increasing height? The category Himalayan range. It is only along the southern slope. So, be very cautious with it. Additional thing which has been mentioned is that in place of northwestern Himalayas, if I believe northwestern Himalayas, then the foot will be monsoonal deciduous. But if it is northeastern Himalayas, that means I am in Arunachal Pradesh and Sikkim, then I can likely to have what is called evergreen broad-leaved vegetation. This is also very important. So, here we can have 1 point difference. Evergreen will be marking its presence in which area? It will be marking its presence in northeast. However, with increase in height, there will be the change in vegetation. And how many vegetation we are applying? Monsoonal deciduous, temperate deciduous, taiga, tundra. And where is the tree line of Himalayas? Tree lines of Himalayas is at 4500 meters. Our planet, geographical equator, sun. Any mountain range in northern hemisphere will have only southern slope as sun bearing. Himalayas are east-west aligned mountain range. Only southern slope is sun bearing, and thus only southern slope will have vegetation. And what will be applicable to southern hemisphere? In southern hemisphere, only northern slope will be sun bearing. Yes, we do agree to this, that in place of east-west align, if the mountain will be north-south align, then both eastern and western slope will be sun bearing. So, if I say Himalayan range have altitudinal vegetation, 4 types, it will be only confined to southern slope. And the southern mountain forest, that is part B, part A was Himalayan range, includes Western Ghats, the Vindhyans, the Nilgiris. They are more closer to tropics, and thus they have got the possibilities of height related variation. Temperate forest called Sholas in Nilgiris, Anamalai, Palni hills are important references, where laurel, chincona, wattle are the important forest recognized. So how you have to deal it up with, it is like this. Height is not much great. Both the slopes, eastern and western, is sun bearing, and you have got the altitudinal variations related vegetation diversity. As amount of precipitation on the windward side goes on decreasing with increasing height, and on leeward side decreases with decreasing height. Be very cautious, sounds confusing. Decreasing precipitation with decrease in height, where lee side. Decrease in precipitation with increase in height, where on the windward side. So evergreen, moist deciduous, wet montane. Dry deciduous, thorny. Where you will have maximum difference at the foot location, because both the slopes are sun bearing. Types of forest in India: tropical evergreen and semi-evergreen, wet and dense; tropical deciduous, maximum spread; tropical thorny, which includes helophyte and xerophyte. Montane forest have 2 types: Himalayan, only southern slope, and southern hills, both slopes. And littoral and swamp, 8 categories outlined. With mangrove forest that we talk about, a Ramsar, that is wetlands of international importance. As I said earlier, apart from conventionally 27, 10 new Ramsar sites have been identified in India, as has been noticed by the nodal ministry, Ministry of Environment, Forest, Climate Change, wherein we are having important examples as Nandur Madhameshwar in Maharashtra, the first to have been given recognition in the state. 3 are in Punjab, Keshopur, Miani, Bias Conservation, and Nangal, and 6 are in Uttar Pradesh, Nawabganj, Parbati, Samoon, Samaspur, Sandhi, and Sarsai, Nawar. Because our NCERT is not updated in this regard, NCERT talks about Ramsar site as 2. We have got 37 Ramsar site in our country. Now, in regards to the forest cover in India, you need to understand that we come up with the biennial forest report, which is called Indian State of Forest Report 2019. Talks about increase in the forest cover, and this increase in the forest cover have reached to the level of forest cover actually is forest plus tree. So you have to divide it, and the question can easily be asked on it. So forest cover as per 2019 report is 21.6 and tree cover is accounting for 2.89%. So combining them, we have touched 24.5% of green cover. And this basically have registered increase, and this increase is something which is very prominent. And if you have to talk about the forest cover, I am using this infographic type of forest cover. Very dense forest means the canopy should be more than 70, moderately dense 40 to 70, and open forest will be 10 to 40. And trees by default can include trees outside forest also. So Indian State Forest Report is talking about continuous increase. This infographic is giving you the increase from 1987, 11% increase, taking the note of the increase in the economic development and population. It is credible for the country. Some other highlights that you should take into consideration, I'll be slowly zooming it one by one. The top 5 forest cover gainers are Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh. Jammu and Kashmir with a star mark because when the report was being made, it was a state, now it is an union territory. And the worst forest cover loss, note they all are in northeast, Manipur, Arunachal, Mizoram, Meghalaya and Nagaland. Added to it, the report also talks about Russia has 5th of the earth's total forest area. So global forest area, Democratic Republic of Congo, which is the country that has got largest area of its as forest cover, has got less share of the global forest cover. And Russia that has got 48% accounts for 20. So Russia is top ranking when it comes to global forest cover. Second ranking is Brazil. And that is the reason Brazilian forest fire made a lot of challenge for us. And if we take the others into the list, then we have got Canada, United States of America, California forest fire of our concern. And if you take India, counted among the top 10 countries in terms of the forest cover, India accounts for some 2% of the global forest cover. We cannot complete our study of forest cover and the forest type without mentioning Indian Forest Act 1927 with minor modification as National Forest Policy 1952 provided the beginning. So I'll write it as preliminary reference of the Forest Conservation Act. The formal beginning of forest conservation comes from 1980, the Forest Conservation Act that continues to be a flagship program in the functioning of Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Actually, Forest Conservation Act gave us champas, compensatory, afforestation, management and planning authorities. And it is 8 years later, that National Forest Policy gave us the beginning of Joint Forest Management Guidelines, where we could rope in. Joint Forest Management Guideline is 1990. And actually here we could incorporate what is called as social forestry. And Forest Policy Division. In Forest Conservation Program. And rest all the programs which are mentioned, whether it is Wildlife Protection Act or Biological Diversity, Environment Protection or National Environment Policy, they have got indirect or passive references to forest conservation, wherein National Environment Policy is very important because Forest Rights Act is the outcome of it. And when we talk about National Action Plan on Climate Change, NAPCC, I very clearly correlate Green India Mission as part and parcel of forest conservation. So we do have got range of programs and policies, and all of them are important, but I am only numbering that directly correlates with forest conservation. So Forest Conservation Act, National Forest Policy, National Environment Policy and National Action Plan on Climate Change. Because rest all of them, say I take into example wildlife protection. Wildlife protection has got Project Tiger. By default, Project Tiger cannot be aloof of incorporating what is called green cover for the wildlife to survive. So it cannot be aloof of forest. But is it absolutely related to forest conservation? No. So the important acts and policies for forest conservation can be taken up here. Because when we talk about NCERT content, there is slight absence of updation to it. So you need to take this into account. Take reference of these studies to highlight how to proceed up with your approach of forest vegetation and its important conservation strategies in India. Right, I hope you have taken note of some important updation apart from the conventional items which are right there in the chapter of our NCERT. Do take revision combining the Indian State Forest Report 2019 and also the wetland, because as I have already mentioned, these are the important things which are dynamic in nature. They don't go with the static orientation and it's always advisable to update it. Before I close down with this video, there is one important announcement that I want to make. Taking note of the upcoming prelims examination, there are 5 topics into which I have divided the prelims syllabus revision, and accordingly the 5 test multiple choice have been planned, and these tests will be available for all of you to attempt. 100 questions for each test. The topics includes number 1, general physical principles of geography, number 2, physical geography of India, number 3, the general map based test, number 4, the environment, ecology, biodiversity and climate change, and finally number 5, social economic development, which is essentially related to the government policies. Now, where to find these tests? These tests are available on the website of the institute. It's www.directionis.com. From there you can easily download it. Do attempt it. These tests are being demarcated, these tests are being formulated in absolute updation for your coming 2020 examination. It is followed on by detailed answer of why the selected choice among the given choices is the answer to a given question. So it gives you an additional support there, and you can also have the availability of the discussion videos with it as well. So from my side, these are the helping hand that I can extend. I hope you will take benefit out of it. Stay home, stay safe, and keep preparing for your prelims examination. Happy learning and all the very best to all of you.